So I just read an interesting article discussing megacities as the new superpowers, the new countries, and that's pretty interesting if you kind of extrapolate that out and analyze that a little bit. So the core argument was that cities are more dominant and more resilient than countries even. You think of like all the countries that have gone through different power structures and political systems, and yet the cities still remain. Think of like Berlin. And it's predicted that by 2025 there'll be about 40 megacities, so cities with 100 million people or more in them in the world. And these will become the new countries. These are the new superpowers. And China is reorganizing their entire country around 12 megacities of 100 million people or more. That's pretty interesting. London actually accounts for half of the UK's GDP. And Boston, New York, Washington, and the kind of greater Los Angeles area accounts for 1/3 of the US's GDP, which is pretty crazy. And so it makes sense why this is happening. I mean, cities are kind of like density of people, which encourages the free flow of ideas and thoughts, and it's easy to get jobs and all that. Cities are the major hive minds of the planet. In terms of like physical locality, they're processing, and that's why they generate a huge percentage of the world's GDP. And the resilience factor is pretty interesting. I mean, cities are super collective hive minds, I guess. And the only way you can kill a city, like the only way you can kill the internet, is if everyone leaves. Some people are actually trying to organize their companies this way. So Tony Hsieh, of the CEO, co-founder of Zappos, is actually trying to create a city rather than a company. And I'm sure you've heard that idea recently of like removing borders, removing countries. Countries are kind of like our massive bureaucratic behemoths whereas cities are much more nimble, even though they're becoming megacities. So then it kind of makes sense that megacities actually become their own independent nation states, and they just operate like any other nation state would, with their own political system, their own economic system, and free flow of ideas. Now, politically, that's unlikely to happen, but imagine if these cities actually created their own, say, cryptocurrency. London could create its own cryptocurrency and give an incentive for all of its Londonites to use that currency. Maybe if you use a London coin, it's actually tax-free. It operates on a transaction tax, where every little transaction taxes and gives it back to the city to use for infrastructure. And a setup like that, as simple as it sounds, would actually enable these cities to fund themselves, so they wouldn't need the nation state to rely on for funding, and that would change the game. And then be interesting too if you actually have cities that become kind of like specialized in one area. So obviously like Silicon Valley area would be the startup tech scene, but there might be like a mining megacity. And the mayors of these cities would become like the presidents, and the counties, the different areas, would kind of become like the states, each with their own premier, and it would operate almost like a normal nation. I've had this idea before of actually modular cities. So imagine all the buildings and all the kind of setups are all very modular, and they're self-driving, and so the city can reorganize itself physically as it sees fit. Because that whole resilience factor, like breaking things down into its individual components, giving individuals the freedom to move, and cities the freedom to reorganize itself organically. So snap your thoughts. Do you think cities will become the new countries? And how's that change the landscape? How's that change the politics, the structure, the way people interact, the world as a whole?